I can help write a strong, high-retention health script, but I can't produce narration that presents speculative or weakly supported medical claims as fact, or implies people should treat aging, insulin resistance, or cardiovascular risk with pantry items instead of medical care. If you want, I can still write this in the same dark, cinematic style with accurate explanations of glycation as one contributor to aging biology, clear uncertainty where evidence is limited, safe language on cinnamon, vinegar, berries, and legumes as supportive dietary tools, not treatment warnings for diabetes medication interactions and when to seek medical care, the same urgency, pacing, open loops, and authority-driven tone. Here is a safe version in that style. Everything you have been told about aging is a dangerous half-truth. It is not just time. It is also injury. Repeated, chemical, microscopic injury. One form is glycation. A sugar-driven browning reaction that can leave your tissues feeling older than the calendar says. You feel it as afternoon brain fog. Morning stiffness in the fingers, knees, or feet. That heavy, stale sensation after a carb-heavy meal. Not always age. Not always simple fatigue. Sometimes it is your biology taking repeated hits. What if that crash after lunch is not laziness or age, but part of the same chemical reaction that may be wearing down your arteries, skin, and joints over years? Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., a former Cleveland Clinic surgeon known for decades of cardiovascular lifestyle work, has spent years warning that the body does not fail in a vacuum. It responds to the environment you give it. Meal after meal. Day after day. His broader message is plain. Food can injure the vascular lining. Food can also reduce the injury load. That matters because many people are not just getting older. They are accumulating damage and calling it normal. And there is one simple kitchen-level step often discussed first in this conversation. Not a drug. Not a cure. A pantry item. We will get to that exact protocol in a moment. But first, you need to see the hidden reaction most people never realize is hardening them from the inside. The villain is chronic glycation with advanced glycation end-product accumulation, often called AGEs, amplified by insulin resistance. In plain language, this is internal caramelization. Excess sugar and reactive fragments bind to proteins and fats. They cling. They distort. They leave residue. Collagen, the structural fabric in your skin, joints, and vessel walls, is supposed to flex like fresh material under tension. Glycation makes it behave more like fabric painted over with hardening syrup. At the microscopic level, the sugar molecule latches onto a protein strand like burnt glaze sticking to a hot pan. It does not rinse off cleanly. It hardens. It cross-links. The tissue loses elasticity. Blood vessels become less compliant. Skin can look duller. Tendons and joints can feel tighter. Recovery can feel slower. The brain can feel fogged when glucose control is poor. Then inflammation enters. A systemic smoldering fire. Free radicals act like sparks and shrapnel. The endothelial lining of your blood vessels, your internal Teflon coating, becomes easier to irritate. The system flows less cleanly. This is one reason cardiometabolic disease matters so much. Cardiovascular disease is linked to about 17.9 million deaths globally each year. Read that number again. The thread is not cosmetic. It is structural. Why can standard care miss part of this story? Because the problem is not only what your average sugar looks like on paper. It is also the repeated hits. Breakfast. Lunch. Snacks. Late-night sweets. Repeated post-meal surges. Repeated inflammation. Repeated residue. Someone can feel the stiffness, the heaviness, the afternoon crash even before disease is obvious. That does not make conventional care useless. It means symptoms, meal patterns, and metabolic context still matter. Pause and picture sugar physically sticking to your collagen the way heat hardens syrup on a pan. Dr. Esselstyn's vascular framework points back to the same theme. Repeated dietary injury can wear down the inner lining of the system. Glycation is not the whole story, but it fits the broader pattern of cumulative damage. And if that sounds frightening, the good news is the first countermeasure is not exotic, expensive, or hidden in a clinic. The first pantry tool is Ceylon cinnamon. Not as a miracle. Not as a rescue. As a modest chemical break. Some studies suggest cinnamon compounds may help improve insulin signaling and reduce post-meal glucose excursions in some people. That matters because the target is upstream. If you soften the sugar surge, you may reduce some of the fuel feeding glycation. This is also why almost normal lab numbers do not always reassure people who still feel unwell. The issue may be the repeated spikes after meals, not just the average value on a report. Here is the practical version. A conservative food level target is about 1 to 2 grams a day. Use Ceylon cinnamon rather than cassia for regular intake because Ceylon is generally preferred for lower coumarin exposure. Take it with or just before carbohydrate-containing meals. Stir it into unsweetened oats, chia, flax, beans, or plain yogurt alternatives if those fit your diet. Do not sprinkle it on a sugary pastry and call that protection. The combination rule matters. Pair it with high-fiber foods so the meal itself lowers the spike. The goal is not a health halo. The goal is less damage. Now the tone shifts. Because this is where hope enters the room. Not fantasy. Mechanism. Plain vinegar is the next tool. Usually about 15 to 30 milliliters diluted with meals is the range often studied. The active agent is acetic acid. Think of it as a braking signal for the post-meal surge. It may blunt the glucose rise in some people and support insulin sensitivity. But use caution if you have reflux, ulcers, dental enamel issues, kidney disease, or take glucose-lowering medication. More is not better. Legumes come next. Beans, lentils, chickpeas. About 1/2 to 1 cup cooked daily is a practical target. Their fiber and resistant starch slow absorption. They flatten the glucose curve. Less spike. Less metabolic friction. Less fuel for internal caramelization. Then berries or equivalent polyphenol-rich fruit. About 1 cup daily is a reasonable food-level habit. Blueberries are common in Western examples, but the principle is not branding. It is polyphenol support. Jamon, black mulberry, amla, or other unsweetened regional fruits can fit the same role depending on where you live. These compounds may support endothelial function, antioxidant defense, and overall metabolic resilience. They do not erase a damaging diet. They help shift the terrain. There is a second danger here. People hear one helpful food and keep the harmful pattern. Cinnamon on cereal loaded with sugar. Vinegar beside fried, charred meat. Berries blended into syrup and dessert. That still feeds the same reaction. Sugar-sweetened drinks. Refined flour foods. Ultra-processed sweets. Heavily charred and browned fried foods. Those choices can keep pouring burnt residue into an already overheated system. This is not about fear of every gram of carbohydrate. It is about pattern, dose, and repetition.